Hello Internet, I'm Nick Acciani and these are my adventures backstage. Today I'm going to talk about why I didn't do a video last week, and that's because I was in tech for Pride and Prejudice at the Actors Co-op, which is currently playing. It opened last weekend and is going until March 15th. Information is below. But what is tech? If you're new to theater or if you know someone who's in theater, you may have heard about this looming presence of tech that when people are in it, when shows are in it, you can't talk to that person at all because they're in tech. Or if you are not in theater, you might have no idea what I'm talking about at all. But that's okay, because now I'm going to tell you. Tech is the week or two before a show opens, where all the technical elements are added into the show. Think of putting a show together like making a sandwich. Rehearsals are getting everything out and everything prepared. The bread, which is the show, and then the meat, which is like the acting and the directing and all that. Without any tech, it's just a ham sandwich with nothing on it. But the tech is like the condiments, all the lettuce, the tomato, the ketchup, the mustard, the cheese, all of that. It just makes it better. It enhances the show. And tech is when all that comes together. It's that moment before you eat the sandwich when you're actually putting all of those condiments on and you're getting excited because you're putting the barbecue sauce on the sandwich that doesn't always have barbecue sauce and you're just really excited about it. That's kind of what tech is. But why it's this looming presence is because it is a very long and kind of tedious process. Because the technical elements aren't easy. They're not just to snap the lights on, snap the lights off. You want to do some fun things with them to, again, enhance the show. So I'm going to break it down for you. Tech is in kind of 5 stages. You have the dry tech, cue to cue, tech runs, dress rehearsals, and previews. Breaking that down even further, what is a dry tech? Dry tech is when, before anything else happens with tech, the stage manager sits down with the designers and possibly the director, and they go over all the cues that the designers have built for the show. So the lighting designer is saying, this cue 1, when the lights come up, should happen on this moment. This cue, when the lights fade from one side of the show, one side of the stage to the next side of the stage, should happen on this word or this action, and the sound is the same way. This crash should happen when he snaps his fingers. This should happen when he says word. All that happens in dry tech, and the stage manager is putting it down in their cues. And this is kind of like the ideal world where all the cues should happen perfectly based on that. Now, we all know that no one on Earth lives in an ideal world. Nothing ever happens perfectly, and that's what cue to cue, the next step, is for. So cue to cue is literally stepping through all of those cues one by one by one with the actors and the director. You start at the very beginning of the show. Cue 1, the lights go up. Cue 2, the lights go into the next scene. And the actors go through the scenes and go through where the cues are. So they're only going a couple lines before and a couple lines after where a cue is, so the stage manager can get the timing down. Figure out the timing. I have to call this cue. I have to say go when he says, if the line's let there be fire, I have to call it on there because of the time it takes for me to say, like cue go, and for the board operator to hear go and hit the button. The other part is to introduce the actors to all the cues because they've been used to rehearsing in full light. Now they get to see where the blackouts happen, how much time they have to get off stage, all of that comes into play. And for the director and the designers, it's their time to tweak things. It's the director's first time seeing the tech, so he or she can say, I like that, that's great, I don't like that, maybe change that a little bit, that type of thing. Because cue to cue is so time consuming, it can take several hours to days depending on how many cues are in the show, how cue heavy the show is. Actors Equity, the union for stage managers and actors, for every contract that they have with the theater, they regulate the hours that an actor and stage manager can work. Generally, it's no more than 8 hours in a day. The only exception to that is that tech. They give 2 tech days that they call 10 out of 12s. That's where the actors and stage manager can be there in the space for 10 hours at a time with a 2-hour break or 2 1-hour breaks. And that's the best time to do the cue to cue because it's all in one compact time. During these 10 out of 12s, after the cue to cue is done, generally the next step is to do a full run through with all of the tech, or the tech run. Generally this doesn't include the costumes because that's a whole separate new step that's going to be intense too and is going to happen at the first dress later. This first tech run is just the tech to get the pacing of the show, for the actors to do the whole show for the first time with the lights and the sound and projections and whatever other tech there is. After that is a dress rehearsal. It's the first time that the actors are now in full costume with all of the tech. And this is super important because this is the first time that they're doing quick changes. Quick changes are when an actor leaves the stage and has to change their costume for their next entrance, but has like less than 60 seconds to do it. Super fast. I've had it where I've literally gone off stage, had someone helping me change, had a whole different costume under my costume that I had on, and walked right back on. And it happened in less than 30 seconds. And this is, the dress rehearsal is the time to do that, is to figure out how the costumes work on the set. It's that next element of tech to be added. Now we're going to continue and do a couple more dress rehearsals. The costume designer's tweaking things, the lighting designer, sound designer, projection designer, prop designer, they're all tweaking things during these dress rehearsals. Some things are getting added, taken away. This is the time to do that. Now, after the dress rehearsals are done, previews, the last element to be added to any show is the audience. And yes, the audience is an element in any live show. You get an energy when you're on stage from the audience. You can feel when they're enjoying a show. You can feel when they're not enjoying a show. So previews are used, a director's job is done. And actually all the designers' jobs are done on opening night. After that, after the show is officially open, a director and a designer cannot make any more changes. It's like that in any equity contract, director's contracts. That's just how theater works. So that's why previews are important, because a director might have directed something and the audience doesn't react to it, or they react poorly to it, and the director that's when you feel that out. So previews are your time to change things after adding the last element of the audience. So now, why this process is tedious is, again, because of that cue to cue. And it's so stressful because these tech elements, it's stressful trying to do all this in basically 20 hours, because you want that cue to cue to be done by the end of 10 of 12. You actually kind of want it to be done by the end of the first day of the 10 of 12, so the second day of 10 of 12 you can have your tech run in the morning and your dress run at night. So actors will be standing around, they'll be doing the same scene over and over again, they'll be sitting around for hours at a time not being used, kind of like a film set. And that has led to a lot of people calling it Hell Week. And by a lot of people, in my experience, what I found, it happened in high school, that's how I was introduced to it. It was called Hell Week. And I expected the worst. In college, there are people who called it Hell Week. And then I got into the professional world, and people called it Tech Week. Nobody called it Hell Week. And that's because everyone loved what they did, and they understood that this was a part of the process. And calling it Hell Week puts this negative connotation on it, and calling it Tech Week doesn't have that same negative connotation, so you're going in hopeful instead of going in dreading it. So that said, whenever I run a tech, I don't let anybody call it Hell Week. I don't like it. I don't like the negativity. Forced positivity. That's what I want. This whole tech process is stressful on everybody, and that's why it is one of the most exciting times in theater, because everything is really finally coming together, and it's one of the most stressful times because everything is really finally coming together. That's what I was doing all last week. Actually, the past 2 weeks I've been in tech for the show because it just opened, and it was, for me as a prop designer, I was going out and making things and buying things last minute, and I was in my car, in my shop, at the theater. But yeah, that's it. That's what tech is. It's adding all of the technical elements into a show before it opens. It can last from a couple days to a couple weeks. Any live show has this kind of tech process. Every show has that tech. So you can see why it's so important and why it's so stressful for people during that time, and why you cannot ask me any life-changing decisions during tech. Why it was so hard for me to get a video out during tech. Because it was just, I was all over the place. But hopefully that doesn't happen again. Hopefully I learned to budget my time better. And hopefully you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and check back next Tuesday, possibly even sooner, because I might add another video to make up for not doing one last week. And that's it. Hope you had fun. Nick out. I'm in tech is a full answer. I've had a guy ask me what the status of our relationship was, and I was like, I'm in tech. And he kept pushing me. I'm like, I'm in tech. Obviously that relationship did not last. I'm just getting so excited about tech.